Who did Darth Vader fear the most? The person he feared the most was a Force wielder and a Jedi. This Jedi was no other than his son himself, Luke Skywalker. The reason is because he is the only person who could either kill him or bring Darth Vader back to the light. Why did Darth Vader pick up Ahsoka's lightsaber? There is a reason for this. He wanted to pick up the lightsaber to use the kyber crystal, showing that him having the kyber crystal, he could improve his own blade. How did Darth Vader sleep? To answer that he never could sleep, the reason is because every time he slept, he would have visions of Obi-Wan and Padme. He only took naps to rest. Why did Obi-Wan Kenobi let Darth Vader kill him? Well, there is a simple explanation for this. Obi-Wan wanted to sacrifice his physical form to continue to guide Luke Skywalker through the Force, since he already knew how to be a Force ghost and to become more powerful than he ever was. How did Kylo Ren get Darth Vader's helmet? In the events of The Force Awakens, we see Vader's helmet with Kylo Ren, but how? It is to be believed that Kylo Ren was on Endor and found it himself after Luke cooked it well done in the funeral pyre. Why did Darth Vader chop off Luke's hand? In The Empire Strikes Back, we see Darth Vader slice off his son's hand into the depths of Cloud City, but why? The reason goes much deeper than you think. When Luke stabbed Vader into the shoulder, he got angry because he thought he was powerful enough to not even get injured by anyone. Luke doing this, Vader released anger towards him and released his full power, therefore chopping off his hand. Why did Obi-Wan let Darth Vader live? In the Kenobi series, we see Obi-Wan not kill Vader, but why? In their final fight, when Obi-Wan sliced Darth Vader's helmet, he saw Anakin, his former apprentice and the brother he once had. Obi-Wan seeing him for the first time in years, he didn't want to kill him. If he did, he would have guilt of killing his own brother. Why is Darth Vader's lightsaber so powerful? As we all know, Darth Vader has the Jedi Slayer 9000, but why is it so powerful? The reason is because he had what was called a dual-phase lightsaber. This type of lightsaber takes 2 kyber crystals instead of 1. This gave him an advantage because he could either extend or shorten his blade by a slim of a second. This little adjustment can throw off Vader's enemies when they least expect it. What was Darth Vader's thoughts as he killed Obi-Wan? In the novelization of Episode 4, Vader was enraged by it. He knew Obi-Wan had dropped his defenses. That along with him disappearing made him feel as though he was robbed of his victory and would never get the chance to defeat him. Why did Obi-Wan lie to Luke about Darth Vader? The reason is quite simple. He didn't want Luke to know about the darkness in his family. He thought that when he became a Jedi Knight, he could by then know who his father really was. How did Darth Vader sleep? The answer is he couldn't because he had constant pain from his suit and visions of Obi-Wan and Padme. What did Darth Vader do with Ahsoka's lightsabers? After the end of the Clone Wars, we see Darth Vader pick up Ahsoka's lightsabers, but what does he do with it? It is to believe that he used the kyber crystal to improve his own blade. Why couldn't Bacta heal Darth Vader? As we have seen throughout Star Wars, Bacta can heal many people, but why not Darth Vader? The reason is quite simple. Vader had severe injuries such as being burnt alive and limbs being cut off, so the Bacta couldn't heal that. What happened to the stormtroopers who wished Darth Vader a happy birthday? In the Star Wars Tales comic series, 2 stormtroopers wished Darth Vader a happy birthday after finding out he was sad that no one remembered his birthday. In the comic, one stormtrooper is assigned to clean Vader's quarters and finds his diary, which includes a recent entry about Vader feeling sad that no one remembered his birthday. The stormtrooper shows the diary to another stormtrooper, and they read it together. They find stories about Luke, drawings Vader made, and Vader's most recent entry about his birthday. Vader wrote that he felt sad that no one remembered his day and that he tried to hide his feelings by not sharing it with anyone. The stormtroopers feel horrible for Vader and decide to wish him a happy birthday the next time they see him. Why did Darth Vader kill Jocasta Nu? The reason is quite simple. Darth Vader wanted to keep the name Anakin in the past, and when Jocasta Nu called him Anakin, he killed her. Why did Darth Vader cut off an Inquisitor's arm? During a training session with the Inquisitors, Darth Vader cut off the 6th brother's arm. But why? The reason was to teach them about loss and to make their fighting techniques more aggressive. Why did Darth Vader hate Tatooine? Although his son was there, he hated the place, but why? The reason is because it would almost kill him. The amount of anger he would have of his past life on this planet could give in, and his respirator on his suit would go out, causing him to die. Did Darth Vader still think he was the chosen one? After a few years of the Jedi getting cooked well done, did Vader still think he was the chosen one? Well, in his eyes, the Jedi gave him the title of the chosen one. However, the amount of times they lied to him had distrust towards him and made him their little errand boy. He knew that the chosen one died on Mustafar. Why did Darth Vader ignore Barriss Offee? In the Tales of the Empire, we saw Darth Vader ignore Barriss Offee, but why? The reason could be the fact that she blamed Ahsoka all those years ago, influencing her to leave the Jedi Order. What were Luke's thoughts after losing to Darth Vader? As we all know, Darth Vader played Fruit Ninja on Luke's arm in The Empire Strikes Back. But did you know Luke's thoughts goes much deeper than in the film? Well, after the fight, he felt both confused and betrayed. He was confused that Vader was his father, so reached out into the Force, and he knew Yoda and Obi-Wan heard him, but there was no answer, so he felt like he was going to quit. Did Darth Vader let Luke win? In the events of the Return of the Jedi, we see Luke win the final fight, but did Darth Vader let him? As we saw in the film, Palpatine told Luke to use his hatred to defeat Vader. This only made Vader even angrier. So during the fight, Darth Vader let his emotions get in the way, so that's why he lost the fight. Why was Darth Vader afraid after his duel with Obi-Wan? During the events of A New Hope, we see Darth Vader cook Obi-Wan well done. However, Vader did feel accomplished, but he also felt terrified. Why? The reason is because he thought one day Obi-Wan could return. Why couldn't Darth Vader use Force lightning? In Legends, when Anakin was being reconstructed into Darth Vader, Palpatine realized that with two mechanical arms, he will never call upon the Force to wield Force lightning. Why was Darth Vader afraid of dueling Luke? When Luke took the high ground, Vader stopped and had Vietnam flashbacks. Looking at his son, he knew how much stronger he has gotten since Cloud City. He knew that there might be a chance that his own son could defeat him. Feeling these emotions, this only enraged Vader to continue the duel. Why did Darth Vader cut off Luke's hand? As we saw in their duel on Bespin, Vader played Fruit Ninja on his son's hand, but why? When Luke strikes his shoulder, Vader's anger released. This is because he knew that there is only very few people who could wound him. The fact that Luke dared to duel and land a blow on Vader made him angry enough to slice off Luke's hand. In the final fight on the Death Star, Darth Vader stopped Luke from striking Palpatine. But why? The reason goes much deeper in canon. The reason Vader stopped Luke is because Vader felt as if his own son wasn't ready to strike down Palpatine. If Luke striked Palpatine, he feared that he would have been next. Instead, Darth Vader wanted Luke to join the dark side and rule the galaxy as father and son.
When Obi-Wan cooked Anakin well done on Mustafar, he later became Darth Vader, but his suit was so painful that he couldn't stand it. He hated mostly everything about the suit and his injuries. When the medical droids rebuilt him, they used an inferior alloy. This material caused his prosthetic limbs to tear on his suit. Every time he speaks to Palpatine, he can't kneel without pain. The boots on his feet were raised to his heel, making it hard to walk. Darth Vader also hated his suit because he had to change his lightsaber form. The reason being, he can't lift his arms above his head.
At the end of the Clone Wars, we see Darth Vader bend down to pick up Ahsoka's lightsabers, even though this was incredibly difficult for him to do in his suit. But why? Darth Vader wanted to show that deep down he is still Anakin Skywalker and still has much love for his former apprentice Ahsoka.
What happened to Darth Vader versus Darth Maul? In Rebels, there was going to be a scene that was now deleted, but this scene would have shown Darth Vader killing Darth Maul and not Obi-Wan. But they replaced this scene with Ahsoka versus Darth Vader to show the emotional attachment between them two. After Anakin was burnt well done on Mustafar, he became Darth Vader, but where does his iconic breathing come from? During his transformation to become Darth Vader, his lungs were melted, so his armor had a pressurizer and his helmet an enunciator to form words and sounds. These fixes would lead to his iconic breathing. How did Palpatine prepare for Darth Vader's betrayal? Palpatine sensed Darth Vader's emotional conflict for many years until he threw him into the reactor shaft on the Death Star. To prepare for the worst case scenario, he would cast his body as a clone on Exegol. After losing to Luke Skywalker on the Death Star, his lightsaber fell down the reactor shaft, but what happened to it? When it fell down, a junk trader found it and sold it to a group of Sith acolytes. These Sith would keep it for a while until destroying it for it to go with Darth Vader's spirit. After Anakin transformed to Darth Vader, Palpatine sabotaged his suit, but why? Palpatine did this because he sensed Darth Vader's emotional conflict, so if he was in constant pain, Darth Vader would grow stronger into the dark side of the Force.
What gift did Palpatine give to Darth Vader? This gift was Padme's starship. Darth Vader, when he saw this, he was enraged, and then he flew to Mustafar to crash it. What clone order did Darth Vader fear? As we all know, there were 150 clone orders. The clones were forced to follow. However, did you know that there was an extra order? This order would be Clone Order 151. This order, if activated, every clone would go hunt down Darth Vader to kill him. This was just in case if Darth Vader tried to overthrow Palpatine. Why did Darth Vader never upgrade his suit? Darth Vader had an iconic suit, but why did he never upgrade it? The reason is because the suit he felt so much pain, therefore he would use the pain to push him more in the dark side of the Force. Why was Palpatine going to kill Darth Vader? Well, after Anakin was burnt to a crisp on Mustafar, Palpatine saw he was in pieces and not the acrobatic youngling slayer he was before. Instead, he was helpless. Palpatine was going to leave him there to die as punishment for losing to Obi-Wan. After Darth Vader killed Obi-Wan, he felt terrified, but why? Well, the reason is because in Darth Vader's eyes, he saw that Obi-Wan just vanished out of thin air. When he saw this, he was genuinely terrified because he thought this was some sort of Jedi trick that the Jedi never taught him. How did Darth Sidious almost kill Darth Vader? In the comic Darth Vader Volume 1, Darth Vader was upset that he killed Padme. When he turned to the dark side in this despair, Darth Sidious told him that with this power, will you accept this gift or die? In the moment, Darth Vader said he will live. However, when he said this, he force-pushed Darth Sidious against the wall. This caused Sidious to force lightning Darth Vader, almost killing him. How did Darth Vader almost kill Jabba the Hutt? A few years after the first Death Star got destroyed, Darth Vader wanted to do some business with Jabba. During this meeting, Darth Vader tried to perform a mind trick on Jabba. However, as we all know, mind tricks don't work on the Hutts. Failing, Jabba called Darth Vader a Jedi, causing Darth Vader to force choke Jabba. Why did Darth Vader kill 2 Inquisitors? After the Jedi Ethkoth's baby was found by the Inquisitors and Ethkoth was killed, the Inquisitors had a celebration with drinks for one less Jedi. During this event, there were 2 Inquisitors in mind, the 13th sister and an Inquisitor named Tuyana Yaluna. Darth Vader sensed an emotional attachment between one another, so to teach the Inquisitors a lesson, he would go on and kill both of them. It's safe to say, if Darth Vader can't love anyone, so can't the Inquisitors. Why did Darth Vader almost kill the Grand Inquisitor? When Darth Vader was sent on a mission to deal with an intruder in the Jedi Temple, he met someone he had never met before. There was in the distance a shadowy figure that emerged rushing Vader. Darth Vader was prepared. This figure was the Grand Inquisitor. They dueled until Vader almost killed him, so Darth Sidious had to say, "I see you have met the Grand Inquisitor." When did Luke Skywalker first meet Darth Vader? A little time after the first Death Star was destroyed, Luke Skywalker and the Rebellion was trying to lift planets from the Galactic Empire. They stumbled upon a planet trying to help rebuild. When they were trying to, Luke Skywalker felt a presence in the Force, someone he has met before. It was Darth Vader. Darth Vader dueled Luke until ultimately almost killing him, but the Falcon saved him. How did Darth Vader kill Obi-Wan on Mustafar? During a vision, Darth Vader had moments from his past as Anakin replay in his head. One of these moments so happened to be the time Obi-Wan played Fruit Ninja on him. However, this time it was different. He was Darth Vader and force-pushed Obi-Wan into the lava, further killing him. Why did Palpatine punish Darth Vader? After letting Luke escape on Bespin, Darth Vader would then return to Palpatine. However, this would be a huge mistake. As Darth Vader returned, he would already feel the punishment as Palpatine would begin to throw Force lightning at him, because he didn't bring Luke back to Palpatine. However, Palpatine wasn't done yet. He would then bring his royal guards to go and attempt to kill Darth Vader, but he would survive that. This would not fill Palpatine with satisfaction, so Palpatine would then use the Force to pull Darth Vader's suit apart and leave him on Mustafar just like long ago.
After killing the Jedi Knight Eth Koth, Darth Vader would be rewarded by Palpatine. Palpatine would give Darth Vader a gift. This gift would be Padme's starship. When he saw her starship, he would immediately fly it to Mustafar. Being full of anger, Darth Vader would then fly it into the ground at full speed.
Why did Palpatine destroy Darth Vader's suit? In the comic Darth Vader Into the Fire, we can see Palpatine using the Force to tear apart Vader's suit, but why? Well, there's actually a simple reason behind this. In the comic, we can see Darth Vader let Luke escape on Bespin, and he didn't bring him back to Palpatine. And so for punishment, Palpatine would then tear apart his suit and leave him on Mustafar.
Why did Darth Vader cut off an Inquisitor's arm? During a training session with the Inquisitors, Darth Vader decided to cut off an Inquisitor's arm. But why? Well, the reason is quite simple. It's to teach them about loss. If Darth Vader can't have an arm, so can't they. During a training session with the Inquisitors, the Grand Inquisitor and Darth Vader had a talk. After one of the Inquisitors had his arm chopped off, the Grand Inquisitor spoke to Vader. Darth Vader told him that he thought the Inquisitors were pathetic and were still trained in the ways of the Jedi. Why did Darth Vader keep hiring Boba Fett? As we saw throughout the original trilogy, Darth Vader hired Boba Fett in many occasions, but why? Well, there is a simple explanation on why. The reason is because his voice reminded him of Captain Rex. When Obi-Wan told Luke the truth about his father, he looked at Obi-Wan confused in a sense. The truth being Darth Vader is his father, but from a certain point of view, Obi-Wan was right about Vader destroying his father. You see, Obi-Wan looked at it this way. Anakin and Darth Vader were two separate people. Anakin was like a brother to him, and Darth Vader was Anakin but became so seduced in the dark side that Anakin was no longer who he was. On a former Jedi outpost, Darth Vader was on a mission to find surviving Jedi in the archives. When he arrived, Vader didn't get much of a friendly visit. The clone troopers saw Darth Vader as a Jedi, so they shot at him. We all know that was a big mistake. Let's just say, if you ever call Darth Vader a Jedi, he will have you looking like an overcooked McDonald's cheeseburger. When Darth Vader saw that Obi-Wan let his guard down, he went in for the kill, to finally have the gratitude of killing his own master. However, when he sliced him, his cloak just fell to the ground with no one in sight. It's almost as if he just vanished out of thin air. Darth Vader saw this and immediately felt something he hadn't felt in years: fear. He thought this was some sort of a Jedi trick that the Order never taught him when he was Anakin. What was Darth Vader's thoughts after Obi-Wan died? After Darth Vader sliced Obi-Wan, Darth Vader felt scared for the first time in many years, but why? Well, Darth Vader thought that he used some sort of Jedi mind trick that they never taught him back when he was a Jedi. Seeing him just disappear made him frightened.
Darth Vader's suit was uncomfortable, restricting, and deliberately flawed to keep him in pain and under Palpatine's control. It limited his movement, provided poor vision and temperature regulation, and caused continuous pain with needles and an unreliable breathing apparatus. The suit was also vulnerable to electricity, and its clunky design hindered his agility and precision, frustrating him and reminding him of his dependence on the dark side. Darth Vader's suit was deliberately designed by Palpatine to be uncomfortable and limiting. It was heavy, stiff, and painful, with coarse inner linings and needles piercing his skin. His vision and hearing were impaired, and he was reliant on a noisy respirator that could fail. The outdated technology made him vulnerable to electrical attacks, and the suit poorly regulated temperature. These physical discomforts, combined with the psychological burden of isolation and constant reminders of his failure, ensured Vader remained in a state of anger and suffering, tying him to the dark side and under Palpatine's control. Darth Vader slept in a specialized meditation chamber that accommodated his life support needs. This chamber allowed him to remove his helmet and breathe unaided, if only briefly, which gave him rare moments of relief from his constant pain and discomfort. It was one of the few places he could let down his guard, as he was heavily reliant on his armor to survive. The meditation chamber created a pressurized, breathable environment, and he would often use these moments to meditate on the dark side and focus his energy. However, his damaged body and reliance on machinery likely limited his ability to enter deep sleep, so he would rest in a half-sleep or a meditative trance that allowed him some level of recovery.
What was the time Darth Vader was apologizing to Obi-Wan? In a vision Darth Vader had from when he was trying to bleed his kyber crystal, he saw Obi-Wan there in front of him. Darth Vader then took off his helmet and apologized about being the Youngling Slayer 9000. What was the time Darth Vader dueled Palpatine? After attempting to bleed a new kyber crystal, Darth Vader had a vision.
This vision, he had brought this lightsaber to show Palpatine that it was red. However, to our surprise, it was green. So Palpatine saw that and knew Vader had chose his path, and the result of that, they dueled until Darth Vader killed him.
What did Darth Vader do right after Revenge of the Sith? Well, Palpatine sent him on a quest to go find a new lightsaber. However, he needed a new ship, so he used his aggressive feelings to search for a new one. He stumbled upon a few bandits with a ship, so he fought them for it, and as a result, killing them all for a single shuttle. After losing to Luke Skywalker on the Death Star, his lightsaber fell down the reactor shaft, but what happened to it? When it fell down, a junk trader found it and sold it to a group of Sith acolytes. These Sith would keep it for a while until destroying it for it to go with Darth Vader's spirit.
As Anakin became Darth Vader, his thoughts were consumed by desperation to save Padme, anger at the Jedi for betraying him, and a misguided belief that the dark side could bring peace. Despite moments of doubt, he justified his atrocities as necessary sacrifices for power and control. Ultimately, fear and a thirst for power overwhelmed his conscience, leading him to fully embrace the dark side, even as it left him hollow and enslaved. Darth Vader bending down to pick up Ahsoka's lightsabers at the end of the Clone Wars is a symbolic moment that shows he's not entirely detached from his former self, Anakin Skywalker. Physically, Vader can still bend down and perform various actions, though his cybernetic limbs and armor do restrict him to some extent. The choice to depict him bending down here is a deliberate visual cue, showing that he's still connected to his past and, specifically, to Ahsoka, a significant figure in his life. Emotionally, it's a quiet moment where Vader reflects on what he's lost. The action of picking up the lightsaber is almost reverent, suggesting that some part of him still feels the weight of his old relationships and perhaps even regret or sorrow.
Why does Darth Vader take orders from Grand Moff Tarkin? Well, there is quite a few reasons on why. For one of the reasons, Darth Vader only reported to Palpatine. He wasn't really a part of the Empire's fleet until after A New Hope. And also, the Death Star was under Grand Moff Tarkin's control, meaning he had full control over anything that happens to it. Anytime Darth Vader was at the Death Star, he would have to take orders from Grand Moff Tarkin, until ultimately the Death Star was annihilated.
Why did Darth Vader visit the crashed cruiser? As we saw at the end of the Clone Wars, Darth Vader visited the crashed cruiser that Ahsoka and Rex were on, but why? Well, there is a simple explanation on why. Darth Vader wanted to make sure that Ahsoka was still alive. However, seeing her lightsaber left on the ground, Darth Vader assumed, unfortunately, she was dead.
Ben still had his lightsaber drawn as he moved along through an access tunnel that led him back to Docking Bay 327. Having disabled the tractor beam, his remaining goal was to make sure Luke and Princess Leia left the Death Star on the Millennium Falcon. But before he could reach the hangar, he sighted a tall, shadowy form at the end of the tunnel. It was his former apprentice, Darth Vader. Vader had already activated the red blade of his lightsaber for a moment. He stood motionless. Then he approached Ben. Obi-Wan activated his lightsaber and stepped slowly forward. He fought Vader before, he hadn't been afraid then either. "I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan," Vader said as he moved closer to the elderly Jedi Knight. "We meet again at last. The circle is now complete." Obi-Wan assumed an offensive position. Vader continued, "When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master, only a master of evil, Darth," Obi-Wan said. He made a sudden lunge at Vader, but the Dark Lord blocked the attack. There was a loud electric crackle as their lightsabers made contact. Obi-Wan swung again and again, but each time Vader parried. Vader said, "Your powers are weak, old man. If you can win, Darth," Obi-Wan said, "if you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine." "You should not have come back," Vader said. Their lightsabers clashed again and again, and as their battle continued, they moved closer to the main doorway that led directly to the hangar that contained the Millennium Falcon. Ben looked to Luke and smiled. Then he raised his lightsaber before him and closed his eyes. He looked almost serene. Darth Vader thought Obi-Wan was surrendering, but the Dark Lord was without mercy. Vader's lightsaber swept through the air and sliced through Ben's form. Ben's cloak and lightsaber fell to the floor. His body was gone. Darth Vader ignored the blaster fight and looked down at the old brown cloak and lightsaber that lay on the floor. Incredibly, Obi-Wan had completely disappeared. Where is he? How could he have vanished? What sort of trickery is this? He had assumed Obi-Wan's study of the Force had ended long ago and his powers had diminished over time, but Vader was wrong.
Luke closed his eyes to meditate. R2-D2 beeped in the distance as Luke lowered Yoda to the ground. While the aged Jedi settled himself on a wide route, Luke stepped over to a tree branch where he placed his shirt and weapon belt. As Luke pulled on his shirt, he sensed something strange and deadly in the air. He turned to see a huge dead black tree, its trunk surrounded by a few feet of water. Giant twisted roots formed a dark and sinister looking cave on one side. Luke stared at the tree and a chill ran down his spine. "There's something not right here," he said. "I feel cold. Death." "That place," Yoda said from his seat, "is strong with the dark side of the Force. A domain of evil it is, and you must go." Luke thought, he actually wants me to go in? But he also somehow knew the journey was necessary. It seemed the place was silently calling to him. Hesitant, Luke asked, "What's in there?" Yoda said, "Only what you take with you." Luke looked waveringly between the tree and Yoda, then stared his strap on his weapon belt. Seeing this, Yoda said, "Your weapons, you will not need them." Luke gave the tree a long look and then shook his head and strapped on his belt. Yoda shrugged. As Luke walked away, the little droid trembled. Luke brushed aside some hanging vines, then lowered himself into a hole. In the darkness, he could barely make out the passage that lay before him, but he proceeded deeper into it. There were roots tangled and twisting up the walls, and the smell of rot and decay was everywhere. Could these roots bring life to the tree above? Somehow it seemed doubtful. The space wandered around him, and then he saw something move in front of him. There was a shadowy form, then medical breathing sounds, and a sense of dread. Darth Vader. The Dark Lord appeared from the black, and Luke took a few steps back. Time seemed to slow down, but Luke's mind raced. How did Vader get the Dagobah? Is he looking for Master Yoda, or is he here for me? Then he remembered his lightsaber, and in an instant the cave was illuminated by his blue blade. Vader drew and activated his own red lightsaber, crossing his blade with Luke's. Luke tried to concentrate, but felt himself being distracted, drawn into the sound of labored breathing that came from Vader's helmet. Then Vader attacked. But Luke was ready. He angled his blade defensively to block Vader's blade, and there was a loud electric clash between the two lightsabers. The Dark Lord pulled back and swung again. Luke parried and prepared for Vader's next assault. Their lightsabers again connected with a loud crackle of energy, until Luke broke free, swung hard, and cut off Vader's head. Sparks showered up from the neck of Vader's decapitated form. His body toppled and his helmet rolled across the cave floor. Luke stared at the helmet, and its black oval lenses seemed to stare back. Then there was another shower of sparks, and the helmet's faceplate burned away. The smoke cleared to reveal a face cradled in the smoldering broken shell of Vader's helmet. The face was Luke's own. This isn't really happening, Luke thought as he stared at the head into its cold, dead eyes. It's all some kind of a hallucination or nightmare? But what could it possibly mean? While Luke made his way out the cave, Yoda remained seated on the roof. He looked at the ground and shook his head. Although Luke did not yet comprehend what has happened in the cave, Yoda knew that it had been a test and that Luke had failed.